I think I'm going to make another track or song to make a point out of the point that, Lawrence Fox has been prosecuted for speaking freely and hypothetically on GB News when he's political party leader and he's supposed to have immunity and the police have totally ignored it. This law here for police, not having to observe the speed limit unless it would hinder the progress of the vehicle for the purpose which it's being used. You might as well just pretend that doesn't exist, But the police are in a position with the muscle, and who challenges the police at the end of the day, you know. Well, I don't know why Lawrence Fox isn't doing action against the police, you know. You might as well just pretend the legislation doesn't say, it's the right to petition and all prosecutions are illegal. You might as well just say, change the wording of it. So I think I'm going to do a little mashup of this police speeding law and change the legislation in it so it says that they do have to observe the speed limit, to make a point out of the fact that the police seem to think that all prosecutions aren't illegal for petitioning when they are. So let's see. Let's get police. The thing is, the police and the CPS they've got the monopoly on all prosecutions in England. There are very, very few private prosecutors. They're actually controlling it, and there's not really much you can do about that. There is a provision in here. You see, in here, right? Really, we've got rights for policing. We've got rights to use the law for policing. And we've also got the right to use the law for emergency purposes, like in medical emergencies and things like that. Because you can go into a house, to save someone if they're injured, even if it's private, or things like that. But all these rights seem to be taken away now. They don't really want people to act. Although, if it's something like, saving a girl who's drowning in a pond, then the police come along, and help you get a commendation or a medal, or even that escaped police officer on the bridge getting not escaped police officer, that escaped one of the prisoners who was, for some strange reason, there was a prisoner on London, somewhere near London Bridge. God knows what he was doing there. He was out on transfer or something, and he ended up tackling this terrorist and got a pardon or a commendation, which was a complete and total, what was he doing there? It was all planned, it has to have been planned for him to be there at that time. When I'm getting evidence on the whole corrupt entire police force of England, and I still got punished, even though I actually did it under protection and rights. In this, right, they keep updating and changing the law, and now they're trying to make out that it's only people who are trained to drive at high speeds can exceed the speed limit. Although you can have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and surely exceeding a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit by 5 miles an hour if you're pursuing a criminal or even going to the hospital is not driving at high speeds. You don't need high speed training to drive at 40 miles an hour, surely, even if it's a 20-mile-an-hour zone. And what happens if that 20-mile-an-hour zone previously was 40 miles an hour and they changed it? So, the week previously or 6 months previously, you might have been driving on that road and they deemed that, and this is not excessive speed to drive at high speeds like, 100 mile an hour or whatever or more. We're talking about, a road when the council just decided that they want to make it a lower speed limit. But, you were competent enough apparently to drive on it before they lowered it at a certain speed and didn't need training, So, but the trend that's happening is everything that you've got the right to do, even with emergencies, medical, anything like that, more and more rights have been taken away and only given to the organisations. Oh, they've got to have the training. There's less and less competence and skill accredited to people. And then we've got all this COVID stuff that many doctors are talking about now, and all this spike protein, effects, but also the food effects on, brain fog and stuff like that, where people will be able to perform better anyway. This whole Tony Blair going to other governments and getting them to reform the government and change the way they process and do things, literally changing it to a forceful way or a very unfriendly way. Since Johnson and Sunak have been Prime Minister, everything has gone downhill. All passport processing, everything like that is now, it's all forced, it's all extortionate, it's all ridiculous fees, ridiculous costs, it's all manipulative processing, doing it, and then all these accept, consent, submit online, which all the companies that they're taking over, then they're training all their staff. Their staff are now being trained, almost like the police or the ambulance, the grooming and training of the staff. We don't answer questions. We can remove an account for any reason or no reason. And then if you've got a legal query, even though in the civil procedure rules it says you've got to make all efforts to try and resolve the problem out of court, they don't answer no questions. They don't give any answers to questions on specific details or anything. They don't enter dialogue. They've been trained. It is an enterprise that is we're having. They made the government transparent with freedom of information, Tony Blair. And then what happened is all these companies that had slowly been bought up and we didn't realise then, even though, Charles, obviously being the king, he can ask things about government departments and find information, but it's in a business and corporate capacity, how many widgets do you sell? I mean, if Charles himself is in government asking too many questions, it'll look strange, asking every government department for all this information, or the House of Lords, are supposed to know information about the country, but it's the manner by which you're asking. But when all these independent companies are just basically almost like, doing a complete assessment of the government, where do they buy the paper from? Where do they get the, NHS medical beds from? Jeff Bezos is interested in buying up everything and taking over. Where do they get all the pharmaceuticals from for the NHS? When Tony Blair did this freedom of information, it opened the government up for like a complete scan, a complete assessment. I mean, if it's almost like, that really would be like, isn't that like a Christmas present to the KGB? Isn't that like a Christmas present to the Russian government? Did you ever think of that? And all these companies that have been slowly being bought up by one entity investor who is, behind them all, they've taken over supplying the government with a lot of things. All these computers are supplying to 77th Brigade and Battalion and so forth. For example, that vision that Tony Blair pitched and sold, the pitch of the Tony Blair vision is transparency. It's like the words freedom of information, right? The freedom of availability of information. But that surely has a tonation on it of like freedom of, like all those books that are banned, what about all these books that are banned, can I have a list of all the books that are banned, won't mind reading them. Well, if they're banned, how can you read them? Yeah, but it's freedom of information, at the moment now, it is complete, it is not freedom of information. They don't want information to be free. It doesn't matter whether it's correct or wrong. I mean, what happens if you want, school exams, right? School exams. I want the freedom of information of test results in schools, right? And answers to questions that were wrong. So that is answers that are wrong. So that's incorrect information. That is, answers to questions of who's the Prime Minister of England, Lord Pumpernickel, right? So I can have that information. Through freedom of government information, I've got a right to that information, but the information is incorrect. They don't want to have incorrect information. They don't want it to exist. They want to apparently ban all information that they deem is inaccurate or wrong. This Ministry of Truth. So when Tony Blair's pitching freedom of information, but what's actually happening though, even if the information is true or false, right? Get this. No corporate entity wants to give over information now, right? So really, it's like, or we don't have to answer any questions, we don't have to, so the whole wall, like, Wall Street or whatever you want to call it, the wall of the corporate entity is now currently absolutely the complete opposite, really, of this Tony Blair vision of the freedom of information. It was the freedom of information of the government. I think it applies to all the companies. There's a case to the courts that you could make if you had the money for it, that, all companies are formed under Companies House and are government companies and have to comply with the laws of England and rights and so forth, or they're not allowed to form a company. So therefore, every company isn't privately owned. It's owned by the state, but its benefactor, its owner, owns, the shares and the assets and so forth, and they, they're the director, but it's a HM Government Companies House company. This suggests that, are really all companies our companies Charles as His Majesty's, and does he see them all as his companies? Like, he sees that, all his duchies and all his lands in the Isles of Scilly and Cornwall, it's all his land and they have to pay his rent. Does he really, really, really see it as his planet, his world? And His Majesty's Companies House companies. These are all my companies. Oh, well, if they're all my companies, if they're all His Majesty's Government Companies House companies, and they're formed under Companies House with a certificate of His Majesty, I might as well buy them all. I might as well own them because they're His Majesty's companies. And all these directors, they should be under my direction when I'm the major shareholder. And that's the thing about Charles's will and the whole Vanguard enigma, which I think Senator Rand Paul is interested in now after the whole Fauci incidents, and they're definitely not being transparent. Now, the thing about false information is this. Google and YouTube want to try and ban all information that is deemed false or incorrect, right? But take this for example. Tony Blair's vision is a freedom of information. So if there was a freedom of information that's correct, then why aren't, for example, TuneCore, when I have a technical or legal argument with them, why aren't they giving over all correct information? Why aren't they giving over correct information? Why aren't they giving over all information that is true? Well, they won't. Because it'll legally, like, if TuneCore give over information that is correct under some sort of transparency clause, which sort of were to kind of like, under the premise of Tony Blair's theorem of the freedom of information, right? Then that means that every question that you ask, they would have to answer it truthfully and lawfully, right? But they're not. At the moment, they're not lying, but they don't want to tell the truth. So they don't want there to be freedom of true information, because then there will be legal implications. Like, why did you remove my song but not someone else's song when it's the exact same lyrics, Or why am I being denied an account or something when someone else is? What is the true answer to that, and so forth. So it's not about freedom of information, and it's not about truth or falsities. It's about what they want to do and what they don't want to do, basically. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to what they want to do and what they don't want to do. Now, the thing with information is you can check information. If someone gives you information, if it's true or false, you can check it. That's the whole point of a court, you know. Children get things wrong all the time. You know, they answer questions wrong. That's incorrect. Game shows on TV, you know, if you were to ban the publication or broadcast of anything that is false, then wouldn't you have to have BBC bleeps of all of the television answers that were wrong? You know, like when you swore on TV, you know, like the Sex Pistols, you know, going to do a bit of swearing on TV, you know, like F off, you know, whatever, and they used to go beep, put a bleep over it. Does that mean that all TV game shows would have to be pre-recorded and, you know, all the answers that were incorrect, you wouldn't actually hear the answer because it's false information, it's wrong information. So, you know, what date was the Great Wall of China built? You know, 1654. Beep! It's wrong. We can't have that broadcast. It's false information. But this is what Google want. Google want that. But the thing with game shows is that, you know, it doesn't harm Google. It's meant to be a bit of a laugh. It's a challenge. Do you know the answer to the question? But when the question suddenly is, you know, how many complaints has Google got, you know, about things being taken down? You know, can we see some data on complaints that you've got? How many complaints have you got? You know, that your platform's being run illegitimately. How many people believe the platform's not being run correctly? You know, why is a FlexiSex, you know, video still up there, or music, and not being removed when it's a violation of the policy? And how many other people have, you know, complained about inconsistent policy application, unfair policy application, discriminative policy application? They don't want to give the data over, you know, but they don't want to tell the truth. You know, the thing with Google is, if they're all for the truth, then why don't they answer every question truthfully? You know, every single question you ask, if they've got nothing to hide, why don't they tell you? You know, why don't they, you know, like Freedom of Information Act hypothesis, why don't they just, you know, tell you? Well, they don't want to tell you because if they give you certain information that's true, you can use that information to prove that they are being discriminative. They are not applying their policy fairly. They are not doing what they say they're doing. They're giving out false statements. They're giving out false claims against people. How many? All right, then, to Google, how, you know, that time when, you know, I got an admittance from them that they removed my video and they were wrong about it. How many people have had content removed when Google have been wrong? And what are the implications of that, you know, on people's working accounts? But it's more to do with the training of the staff. You know, all the staff are just people who go to work, right? They're just people who've got a job, you know, but they're all working there. They're all being told what to do, or they're sacked. They're all being trained and groomed, and they're all being told to put these walls up, not answer no questions, you know, just send these messages, or company policy to protect the interests of the staff and the company, to protect the integrity of the company when answering this question. But what about the integrity of the people? What about the integrity of the accounts of the person, of the videos, of the channels of the people? What about their integrity? We can remove it for any reason or no reason. There is no integrity then. This is what Tony Blair is doing with governments. Tony Blair is doing the same with foreign governments as what they've been doing with the corporate sector, putting it all under one trained regiment, so all the staff are like a Roman army, compliant in our, and then fitting digital eyes into our front rooms, trying to, you know, EE phone company, trying to sell motion detectors, trying to up your connection speeds. He's becoming Orwellian, and they've got the staff behind the other side to facilitate that Orwellian. Once, you know, people start talking about this Orwellian movie future, when you've been observed in your house and told what to do or what not to do, they've got the staff to do it, but then they won't even need the human staff to do it once they, you know, get AI or, you know, machines to respond and so forth. And then you definitely won't be able to argue with machines. The thing about humans is that humans have humanity, emotions, care. you know, and all these laws, if these companies were breaking the law, right, then, as a citizen who can identify that, you should be able to take legal action. It shouldn't cost too much to take legal action. But all the legal powers that we used to have as citizens, except in civil cases, and not many people even want to take a proper civil case, and then you've got to travel. Or what about all the travel like this? That online court is meant to be in Northampton. How many people bother going to it and turning up in person, We're having all the legal... We're having the right to police, even the right to, drive, emergency, do anything like that. It all got taken off us and given to the police. Oh, we'll deal with this. We'll control this, right? But, after that Guy Fawkes incident with the gunpowder plot in Parliament, that incident with the Great Fire of London is when they were meant to have an organised police force, which is insanely ridiculous with the fact that, they didn't actually manage to blow up Parliament when there was no police force. But after there was a complete organised police force, then all these things start happening, like Parliament burns down. It seems like those incidents, these incidents that we're still getting now. I mean, when I made that point, and this is a really important point, because I sent it into the courts. When I made that point and sent that point into the courts, about the fact that, when it comes to, Andrew Bridgen case against Matt Hancock, and false slurs, then, like I made the point that school kids give false answers, and, it has to be, it can be published, results are published, and answers are published, and it's publishing something that's false. And it was a strong point. That was the same time when I actually sent some BentCup.biz artwork to someone, quite a lot of it in a box, and then exactly timed to that was that incident where that guy ran into some school kids, school kids set up with a little tea party table doing some artwork outside, almost like some sort of symbolising some sort of Extinction Rebellion cut and paste session, and that incident was one of these perfectly timed incidents, perfectly timed response and newspaper story, one of these terror incidents, terror responses, just like that tree that got cut down at Hadrian's Wall. And funnily enough to that, this is another important thing. It's not, I don't say this without it being important, because I had been thinking about a song. The line of the song was like the California Dreaming. It was for like that Stop Cop City campaign. Like all the trees are coming down. It was going to be like like in California Dreaming. All the leaves are brown and the sky is grey. Take a walk on a winter's day. Well, I was actually singing because of Stop Cop City. They're cutting all the trees down. So I was like singing all the trees be coming down and the sky be turning grey if we don't stop Cop City. But I'd written it on my phone and I was actually singing it, right? And I was looking to get a guy to do the song. He's actually doing it now. But at the time he wasn't available. He was busy, so I couldn't get it done. And then that is when that incident happened with that guy going to that sycamore tree on Hadrian's Wall and cutting it down. So the tree did come down, very, very, very famous one. Now, if you believe in juju and jinxes and hexes, like, because, Hadrian's Wall's near Hexham, then that makes me look bad, because that looks like it's my bad jinx or my bad juju, unless you've got the capacity to prime these people by mobile phones, social media messaging. You can pop up there like some sort of SIF in a mobile phone message and, talk someone into doing it or put the idea into their head. Like some of these Americans who go and shoot up schools or whatever and get annoyed, or like Boris Johnson's dad's next door neighbour and so forth. If you've got the ways and means of trigger pointing people, pushing buttons, button pushing, trigger pushing, you know. Or if it's just the press exaggerating it, you know, or whatever, concentrating on certain stories. There are more incidents that have happened, you know, like that signal failure with the train, you know. And there's that. I did do the song, the Rage Against the Machine cover, you know. I could ruin a train on punk fools who think they run the game. You know, and then there was that train incident straight after that. Two, and then the one in India. It's almost like, but then again, I don't think that's like, you know, hex juju, coincidence juju. I think that's, you know, technical signal failure, human intended technical digital machine action, like an Extinction Rebellion action is to throw paint over a building. Like an action is to like crash a train, and if you've got the means and technology to do it. And I don't think it was the anonymous group, because they claim they claim their actions. So I think we are dealing with a terror group, you know. And I think that Luton Airport incident as well. When you see the video footage, what are the chances of someone having a camera at a certain place at a certain angle for that Luton Airport explosion? When you see it, it looks like the floor above blows up and falls down. It looks like there's an explosion in the top floor higher up above and then falls down. And it just happens, you know, why was the camera in that section at that time being filmed? And that's the footage that got put out about it. I could get it up on the screen now and show you it, actually. And the thing with that is this, that, you know, there's a censor song that were covered as well, you know, for the King Charles petitions, the censor lyrics. And it goes, you know, I go in the level below, see me and know you can check it and go. And it's for I think it's one of the songs to do with the bomb track song. It's just another bomb track. Well, that's the thing, you know, an explosion. And we've been pushing this Hey Joe cover song to do with, you know, Hey Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand? And there's been some real controversy over that, because I did like a song for Marianne Williamson 2024 advert, because they won't give Robert F. Kennedy security, right? And the fact is that, you know, that's a very powerful, strong song, you know, that Hey Joe cover where you're going with a gun in your hand. And you know, to top that, shooting a gun is for bombs and explosions, you know. And all the time that Amazon's been hacked, I was getting like full score, full rating, full marks. The last 10 political songs that I've done got full score for them, like the highest rating you can get, which means that people like them, right? People actually like them, so they're good, they're strong. And then suddenly, you know, I tried to put the Marianne Williamson one, and when Russell Brand got pulled down, did a really strong track to highlight the fact that when you get married, you're making certain legal vows, and really, the partners are giving each other certain consents for touching each other and encouraging each other for things like that. And that has got legal implications. And I made a point out of that in a track to help support Russell Brand's case. And it got delayed. I really wanted to get it out straight away when everyone was typing in Russell Brand and looking for it. And there was nothing wrong with it. And then they kept saying there was something wrong with the title when there wasn't. And it got delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. And over that whole week, when it was a hot topic, it should have been live and it wasn't. And then it got published late. And besides that, the Charles one that we did, Stepford Charles, I did the cover, and the cover was perfect. And then when I uploaded it, the cover was fine. And then when it went on to Amazon, there's like this white line across the top of it, and there's no such white line in my copy of the image or on the image on the publishing website. So some other person or parties put a digital line across it, and I'm just trying to get it corrected now. And then the Fruits of Labour, we did the song Fruits of Labour like a Coronation Street cover song, mashup. Well, actually played backwards for a petition advert, and it wasn't. It wouldn't play track one. It would only play track two. And I did a bit of a Sam Goosey joke in it because he's the clerk who gave me the wrong time. The clerk who gave me the wrong time when I went to court, like false time. And then he worked his ranks way up through the ranks of to DJ Goosey, and that track wouldn't play track one. It only played track two, and then my rating suffered. And then the Sam Goosey track got full rating, and mine only got 8 bars out of 10. So it's like it beat us. So someone's messing with it. There's no question to that. There's no doubt. I mean, I've contacted Amazon. They've corrected it now. It plays right, but my rank and that threw off all the ratings. I was getting top ratings, and then the Marianne Williamson one, the Hey Joe cover, it was live on YouTube, and then it got taken down. And then this is when I'm trying to get it published. While I'm trying to get that published, right, is when that Luton Airport thing happened with the explosion. But there's always meaning to these things. A lot of the time, though, when you're challenging them and when you're pushing something, these incidents, they're not like random raindrops falling onto the floor in a random pattern. It mean that there's a meaning to it, like the sycamore tree on Adrian's wall. And I'd actually just contacted that Nicholson guy, that MP on the select committee, over that Rees-Mogg incident, and actually pulled up the fact that, maybe even he himself, being an MP, shouldn't be on certain... And it's not actually just the fact that it's a news programme or a current affairs programme, why Mogg should or should not be on there. It's the fact that he's an MP, because there are other acts of law that apply. So, but this is the thing what Senator Paul Rand's looking into. Even he as a senator, there's certain information and things that he can know, certain things that, he's got access to, classified documents and information. But there's lots of things that he doesn't know, lots of things that they won't tell him. And he actually meets people in person, asks them questions like, why didn't you investigate this or that? We never did, because he wants to confirm, sometimes whether his emails are getting through or whether what someone says online is correct, because then he gets to speak to them in person and ask them, did you do this or that? And when he speaks to them in person and asks them, then that he gets the answer, and it's not somehow an information intervention, circumvention or whatever, but even then, I, from the whole perspective of what's happening, I think that we're being kind of like played by this terrorist group, a terrorist group who have got themselves over a long period of time and with technology into a covert position where they can operate and have, whether they do it themselves or they get people to do it, they've got very good methods of coercing people or getting people to go somewhere. It's just like DHL. If you want, you don't need to have a terrorist to deliver. This is the thing with parcels and packaging, and I'm not in any way saying, about bombs or anything like that, but what I'm saying is the theory of it, right? So, in theory, you can get, any terrorist who wanted to blow something up, in theory, could, get, they could orchestrate it so that they don't actually get hands-on at all. You could get, it's like on Goldfinger, assemble the parts, you could get someone to, a 3-part thing, send it to what address, get someone to assemble something that they don't even know what the fuck they're assembling, right? And then, order DHL to drop it off at, 15 Primrose Drive, and then it fucking blows up. This is the thing. And then what, the police have got not much to go on. They've got the fire brigade, what caused the pub to burn down, a match or what, when there's not much left of it for evidence, and who delivered it? Oh, it's some DHL driver. Where did he deliver it from? Well, it's from some garden centre part. But where did they get the parts from? This is when you get onto these TV dramas. The TV do like Murder in Successville or Death in Paradise, and these thrillers, these crime programs, when it's meant to make people's brains tick over, and they like these complicated programs. I think that all those programs are controlled to make people. It's to entertain, but with all the food that we're being fed, all these spiked protein effects and brain fog and so forth, they know that most people, are limited in what they can think and so forth. And then the whole thing of the motives as well, they keep us scared by those programs. But the real, I think that most people are quite, law-abiding citizens and quite, want to live a normal, happy life. And I actually believe that, other than people who are in poverty and haven't got much money and resort to crime, or are just from rough areas or whatever, a lot of what the corporate sector are doing now is really crime. It's entrapment with devices. We're being coerced to get these devices and then accept consent, and then they introduce new stuff where you've got to allow access to this, you've got to allow access to that. It's just, and they're doing that. That's what they're doing with the strategic planning. That's what they're doing with the strategic planning in the council at the moment. You can't oppose it because it's all phased. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4, Phase 5. It's futile to object to these phases because they've got them all planned out long term. They've got these long-term phases planned out, and if they've already got to, Phase 4.6, I mean, it's like there's no turning back. They've got the whole world planned out. Every area should be able to design its own future and decide its own plotting and planning, its own design and its own layout, not the corporate people putting everything on the table. And this is why, Andrew Bridgen is talking about his constituency being targeted with these immigrant hotels, specifically targeted with the immigrant hotels. And he's given evidence on that, and he believes that it's because of him, because of his Part 8 affiliation, and because of his constituents, and they're being punished. And I had this when, I did the investigation and all the illegal road signage. When I was doing the investigation, they actually started punishing other people. They really hurt them. There was people going down the motorway, right, the other way, and what they were doing is I'd come from the direction that, I'd just come from a direction and it was completely clear. There was no incident, there was nothing there, right? And they were dropping the speed limit down to 40 and they were flashing drivers and it was completely clear. Flash, 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 flash. And everyone was like, what? And they were all getting these fines and there was nothing there. It was just like forcing them. We can make you slow down to 40 on a completely clear 4-lane, 5-lane, 6-lane motorway, right? At Chesterfield or wherever it is. We've just got the power to do that. And they were just dropping it down. And I was seeing all these people just getting flashed. And I knew there was nothing there at the other side. I got set up I got set up a few times, but it was at the time when, I was pushing, the logo for it, and I was making some really strong claims against, the police force and the government. But it was the legend signs and all the like. This is what happened when I got done on the M42, which is Andrew Bridgen's constituency. It's actually Andrew Bridgen's constituency where I got done, Ultimately, they took my driving licence off me, and all those legend signs were having the wrong information up. They never said that the exit was closed, said it was one lane down, never said that an exit was closed, and they're supposed to do. It never said it on those. It was being controlled from central government. They were manipulating the information on the boards. Now, I don't know whether it was the actual control centre. I'd been sending a lot of complaints and texts into Highways England and challenging them on their illegal road signage, all the things that they've been doing, the DVLA, false information on the driving licences and so forth. All things like that. Well, actually, it was the driving licences that had the correct information, but they were trying to say that it's false because it says that the speed limit of a vehicle under 3.5 tonnes is the same as a car, and on the back of the driving licence from 1993, it's got certain informations that say that, the vans are a car. And then I argued it with the DVLA, and I was right, and they didn't say that I was wrong, but they just wouldn't do anything about it, There was a force at work. Now, we don't know who it is, though. We don't know if it was the actual government department doing it, or we don't know whether it was the police, or whether it was this other party who can access their systems, who can access the legend signs and have got the capacity to change them, right? We don't know whether it's Charles or Prince Andrew or these people who are responsible for these terrorist attack incidents, which I call them terror attacks. Anything that makes the public scared is a terror attack, but they're pushed as in accidents or incidents, like they're just coincidental or an accident, when I don't think they are. I think they're terror attacks. Now, is the government directing these? Well, it would suggest from Andrew Bridgen's evidence, it's the government who are selecting and choosing those hotels, and it does hurt and punish Bridgen. On that evidence and basis, I think that what they did to me on the legend signs on the motorway to hurt me and upset me, and really, it was like nipple, like when someone grabs hold of your nipple, or if they twist it and it to really hurt you. It's only a small move, but it really hurts. They want to hurt you. They were doing that. It's like they were doing that to other people, hurting them. Hurting other people. They wanted to upset me. Because other people were getting, for no reason at all, other people were getting fined and fined and fined. And, that's the similar sort of, to hurt Bridgen, to get Bridgen and his voters, his constituents, to put those hotel people in there, and that's just like what was happening on the motorway. They were getting those people while they knew I was on there, they knew I was travelling at that time on there, and they were doing it so I could see it, and they were getting people. They were getting people on that motorway for no reason at all, just because they got the power to do it. And I think that's what they're doing with Bridgen as well. And on that evidence, and with the council, through the council as well, through the local council, doing the end of our street up, the nice things that I like there, and sending someone to put horrible paving slabs in, taking the bench away that I like, concreting over the Ford that I had a nice photograph in for the competition, and then the strange events like Boris Johnson's dad's neighbour with that strange incident with the shotgun and death. Well, we had a strange incident. The woman that I used to really like and get on with next door in the beautiful bungalow as well, her husband mysteriously died, and then she had to sell it and move on, and then that made the guy next door sell and move on, and they built these horrible houses, so we didn't have beautiful bungalows next to us with nice gardens anymore and talk to the neighbours over the wall. They built all these yuppie houses with a security entrance to their street, like security state, and they built them really tall, insanely tall, taller than our house, like outdoing it. And then, for some strange reason, then the farmer, he ended up putting planning permission in, and there was some sketchy cheating going on with the council with that. Got some houses built, blocked off another view, but then he died. I mean, he didn't even live to benefit out of it himself for the money. Everything around us, I don't know how it happened, but strings were pulled. And I know some people objected, but it didn't get anywhere. But yet, some of the councillors helped out with some other objections further down in the village, and the whole campaign behind it. But they didn't do anything like that here. So, and then they've had all the traffic noise as well since lockdown finished. The planes got moved over us, and they were harassing us with the planes. And there was that thing when they were boasting about, the Boris plane. Well, I tried to get some drone footage filmed by a pilot, and then he mysteriously he couldn't do it. And then that's when, Boris was showing off about, this Boris plane, like, because I was trying to get my own plane hired out. And then that's when they moved the plane flight paths over us, and with a path that was like bendy, like bent cup duck. There's a path, an actual distinction of a bend, a path. And it took a lot of complaining. He's gone quiet again now. But then the traffic started getting loud all night, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, all through the night. Because they'd done the cycle lanes on one road, and no one bothered going on that road anymore. After the road had finished the roadworks, people didn't bother going back to it. They must not like it with the bike lanes. And then we'd had it moved here, like, all through the night. He seems to have settled down a little bit now, but and then, the beep, 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 the JCBs are designed to, 200 metres away, piercing noise through the walls. No builder, when vehicles are reversing around you and they're only operating within, 10, 20 metres, that's the only circumference you need to hear the beeps. You don't need to hear a vehicle reversing when you're 200 metres away over fields and houses indoor. When you can hear it and it is hurting your eardrum and actually causing damage and ringing. I mean, my boss had someone sue him because someone at work refused to wear the ear protection, yet even though they refused to wear the ear protection, they sued my boss because apparently they got ear damage, and they refused to wear it. But because then he got sued because he didn't make them wear it. Now that's taking the mick. Now I shouldn't have to wear ear protection over fields and behind houses 200 metres away from a building site getting ear damage. Now can I, while I'm under doctor's cover as well, right? That takes the mick. That's actually an attack. These JCB, the noise of it is actually designed to attack from a long distance. That's what it's designed for. It's designed to upset and harass people who really objected and didn't really want all this stuff building, and they objected and they couldn't do anything about it. That's like some sort of vindictive victory parade, and you can't stop it. They've got immunity. The council can't stop it. Now, there's meant to be a volume level that there's a volume that these things have got to comply with, but I don't think that it's the volume that hurts your ears. I think it's the pitch. Now, with glass, everyone's seen that thing when you get a tuning fork and you can smash a glass, and the glass breaks because there's a specific tone which can break the glass, not just the volume. It's not the loudness. It's getting it to a certain pitch, right? And I think that JCB pitch is the ultimate annoying one. Well, you might say, well, how do the builders manage to work around it every day and all day and every day? Well, it's kind of like playing rugby. Why would you want to be tackled all the time? When you're walking through the town centre, going to Lidl with a couple of bags of shopping, you don't want a big butch guy coming and just diving on you and tackling you to the concrete, do you? You won't put up with it. But when they all play rugby and agree to it, they're tackling each other all the time. These, these nupty builders. Most of the people aren't around when they're at work. They're not there when they're at work during working hours. There are certain regulations for the times, but they've got to do it within. But for anyone else, particularly the people, like housewives or other people, there's lots of complaints about those JCB noises from the people who've bought them. When you go online, many farmers who've bought these side loaders saying, bloody hell, it's all right, this digger, but the sound, the noise on it is a pain. I've got evidence on the internet. I've researched that. But that's also like the talking bus as well that they brought in, which stops people talking to each other. People just switch off, put their headphones on. None of this like community spirit talking to each other and it's repetitive. Next stop, next stop, next stop. There's a psychology to that next stop, but you're going past stops. And I've worked it out what the psychology is. It's like when you go into a shop and you're buying something and you're going to stop yourself. Oh, I'm going to stop myself buying that. I won't buy it. I won't have that bag of chips. I won't have that extra yogurt. I won't have that, packet of crisps or that chocolate bar. You stop yourself, right? But there's a higher consciousness, a higher self in your mind that knows better. They call it the higher self. The voice in your mind that advises you, that tells you, maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe I shouldn't do that. This is what the police think people should use, their higher consciousness. But when it comes to shopping, if you ignore your higher consciousness when it's saying stop, don't buy that, stop, don't buy that, and you just ignore it, maybe I shouldn't pick that up and put it in the basket, maybe, offer, here's the, this is what they were talking about on Channel 4 with the, conflict shouldn't have, tigers and monkeys on them selling to kids, they shouldn't have them on the packaging, oh, there's the little monkey, oh, can I have this because it's got a monkey on it, or can I have this because it's got these cartoon characters on it, or I'll buy this chocolate advent calendar because it's got Santa Claus on it, or Mr. Beast, oh, I'll get that just because it's Mr. Beast bar, right? That, in your mind, there's higher consciousness, and it says to you, stop. Now, when you're sat on these buses and it's going past stops and it's going next stop, but you're not stopping, you're just carrying on. The bus is like propelling forward, but it's saying stop, next stop, repetitive every time. If it was something else, fair enough, but because of that, and I found that I think that is designed as something to, when you go shopping, to not stop. And that most people on the bus have been shopping. They're either going to work or they're going shopping. And they're trying to deter people from sitting on the bus to go for a nice journey now, to go out, to see the countryside, to go for walks, to go on the bus, or even just to go on the bus. Why can't you pay? If you're paying for the bus ride, why can't you go out on the bus for a ride, You're not going to want to be on the bus for a ride when there's an annoying, next stop. I mean, we're intelligent people. There ain't that many foreign people here. It's not, London when you've got, the zoo and the palace and all the tourist attractions. There ain't that many foreign students in the area who don't know the way around, or once they've found their way around. People know where they live. People don't need to be prompted by the bus like, oh, now you're here, now you're there. You can see through the window where you are, But with all this, brain fog and all this effect of foods, you start to think whether people can remember anything. I think that because that this transdev company is global and because it's BlackRock Vanguard invested, I swear that there's more to those talking buses than meets the eye on the surface of it. And there's a very similar psychology to it that's with those JCBs to do with objections and the fact that you can't stop it. I can't stop this sound. I can't stop it. You can't stop the sound because you legally can't stop it. You've got no legal right to make them stop it. And you can't do it. You've got to put up with it. The council or police won't stop it. And that's like when you try and object. You've got a right to object. But, if the council don't value your objection or say that it's not worth anything, then it's been deactivated, devalued. Your currency is, your Bitcoin has been halved. Your objection, it's almost like, your vote for your MP. Is it worth anything? Is writing to your MP to complain worth anything? So, and then also the other noise, the McDonald's whistle, that really annoys me because, and I don't really want to have to go into talk about this, but I'm going to have to. I'm sending this to Andrew Bridgen as evidence because he's been on there. He's been on his channel and he said that, they're doing this hotel migrant thing and I think they're targeting my area. And I'm concerned about it. We think this is real. We think our area is being targeted. Well, this is a legal statement and evidence to Andrew Bridgen about a lot more things that are targeted and how I think they're doing it. When I wrote some music and I sent it into every single radio station in England, I got the whole list of it and I made loads of CDs and I sent them to every single place. And one of the tunes I've got, what I did with a whistle, actually whistling, and the tune, right? So shortly after that, when every single radio station had got it, and the corporate, these radios, a lot of these are commercial radio stations, and they have people, BBC have people in and out, and the thing is, the Royals have got McDonald's, they own McDonald's, and then McDonald's came out with this new whistle theme, and it's literally identical to my whistle. And, I didn't think too much of it at first. I'm like, oh, that's like my whistle. But after a while, I started to get annoying because it was like a wind-up and they're making all this money out of it, millions. It's not like they're just like selling it at a lemonade stand and making, a couple of pence, They're actually using it for their main tune. But the end of the whistle is really annoying. It goes to a really annoying note. And my tune is not annoying. And I knew that it was something to do with my tune and something to do with the BBC, but there's a lot of psychology involved, and I've actually complained to McDonald's because now the thing is that the note of that tune, regardless of its volume, its pitch, it's coming through the house, and I don't hear the TV, but when that advert plays, I hear it, and it comes right through the walls, unless I've got two doors closed, and for some strange reason, my parents got into the head to take some of the doors off in the house. I don't know where they got the idea from or why, but they took the doors off, and I'm absolutely certain that, there was some sort of advert on TV or some sort of suggestive psychology or messaging my mum from my uncle or some sort of messaging inserted somewhere that got them to do it so that they could play that whistle tune and annoy me through the house. Because my parents have the TV on at night. I can't make them turn the TV off unless they go on holiday and I just don't have any TV on in the house. I don't have the TV, but it's coming through the walls, just like that JCB. So it's attacking me because I don't like it. And it's a real horrible pitch to me now that's really annoying. So, and it also sometimes comes on in the garage if I'm going across to the garage or to the shops, right? So they're the things. And I felt all the time like, someone would just think you just become really unlucky. I don't think I've just suddenly become really unlucky, because that Ford where I took the photograph in Brighouse was a beautiful natural Ford, and I had a beautiful photograph of it, and I actually won with it. I won in a competition with that photo, and then they went and concreted over it and ruined it, and then a park bench got taken out, and I had a photograph of it on my phone. We know now that Google are looking at things on his phones, and things are being reflected back when you take it on a phone, and they've only just disclosed all this. So I think that they were looking at things on phones before that they were letting us know that they were. Now that we know that they're doing it, and all the other things. So Andrew Bridgen, I think that the fact that they're doing it, that if Bridgen is right, and if because of his party affiliations and because of his constituents, they're being, that it's a punishment or it's something to try and hurt them or upset them from the government, there's an intent there, intent to distress or cause harm, or target. And I think that that is evidence for even MPs being targeted now. Now, what other MP do we have evidence that has been targeted? Well, Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn was walking around, and then he did set those soldiers up to shoot a target at him, like a target at Jeremy Corbyn for shooting practice, right? But this is not just some. I mean, fair enough. I've been doing some political puns, political things, but I'm not the public services of England. The army, the military services. They're not a political party or a petition campaign. They're meant to be paid for by the public to protect the country. They're not meant to be taking political hits. So it with Corbyn. But the thing is, all the things that we're doing, my campaign is an investigation because something's not been done right. It's been doing wrong. They take that as me targeting them. Oh, he's targeting us. Well, no, I'm upholding the law. The problem with the government is that they think that it's right to use the police and make laws up to target people who aren't doing things that they want. But when we use the law, when we use investigation powers, they don't like it and they see it as an attack. So what they do is they do things back and attack back. That's warfare. That's warfare, and it's warfare using taxpayer services, not private services. It's private services when it's JCB attacking your ears. Now, if none of these companies were connected, if none of these companies were associated with each other, then fair enough. But as it turns out, through the evidence, that the anonymous group have published the ownership of the shares in the companies and all the foods and chocolate bars that have been doing damage to us, and sperm count going through the floor, and all these JCB sounds, and the Transdev bus with the noise, and the McDonald's with the whistle, they're owned by the same shareholders. And then you've got the cars, the vehicles that are making a noise to, beep, 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 comply with this vehicle, put your seatbelt on, obey the vehicle, right? Which is a similar thing. It's a noise that is made to be annoying, so you comply with it, right? So that is where I am with it all. And I think that if you can't already see the pattern, the ownership pattern, and these things aren't just random, there's a brain behind it. There's a brain and a mind behind it with an intent. And even if the staff members, this is the thing, somebody was talking about Tony Blair, and he's got his own staff, he's got his own department and building, he's a statesman, and he goes about with his own charity work to other governments, persuading them to do this and that. someone was claiming that, even his own staff who work for him they don't really fully know what they're doing or why. That this is what they claim. They don't really know exactly what they're doing working for Tony Blair and why they're doing it, really. They don't fully understand what even they're doing. So this is the problem with the corporate whole sector now. We've got all these staff working at Google. We've got all these staff working at Amazon. We've got all these staff working at TuneCore. And there's a very, very regimented training program and grooming program. We do not answer questions. We can remove accounts for no reason or any reason. And they're obeying the orders of their executives. They're obeying the orders of their directors, their strategic planning, and then they're following, commands from who owns it. And when all these companies are owned by the same groups, the model for this is Bill Gates, because Bill Gates, he's got his own media, he trains them, he's got his own schooling, he trains all the companies how to do this and how to do that. Rand Paul was talking about this the other day when he's talking about the Fauci investigation. He mentioned philanthropists, and these philanthropists, what are they doing? You're buying up all land, and then, buying up all farming land. And then you've got, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying they're wanting to buy up all people's houses in America and own them. And then obviously if they own them, they're making decisions on, they might start putting all these motion detectors everywhere. Like, EE are trying to sell motion detectors just like the Tories were trying to sell conservatives to everyone. Conservatories, sorry. What it comes down to, and I never seen that film, that Orwell movie, this Orwellian future that they're talking about from the movie, when everyone's observed and, told what to do from, those devices on the walls and so forth. That is what is happening. And they're doing it through a new model army, which isn't identified as an army. It is the workforce. They're doing it through control and command of workforces and training of workforces. And this is the type of work that the statesman Tony Blair is engaging in with foreign governments. He is training other foreign countries into this style of corporate running of a government. That's what he's training them up to do and advocating that. And then even characters like Elon Musk, who say they're for free speech and this and that, they all play a part in this because, Musk is pushing all the Neuralink and stuff like that, and he really likes it, he's passionate about it. That's a piece of it, even if he's for pro-speech or not. I thought of a diagram. I thought of if you have a circle of magnets, if you have lots of separate magnets and you if you make a circle out of them, put them all in a circle shape so they all click together, they're lined up positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. If you put two ends together that are positive, positive, they push away, right? If it's negative, positive, they click together. Now, Elon Musk, if you want to assemble something, if you want to make Lord of the Rings and you want all the sections to click together, if they were all affiliated the same, it wouldn't click together. When you click them together, they're lined up positive, negative, positive, negative. Now, how I see Elon Musk's company is that he fits this circle plan, this Orwellian takeover circle plan with his Neuralink and, all that part of it. They need him and he fits into it perfectly. Now, if he claims that he's not with, all the World Economic Forum and the whole Orwellian takeover and, the side of censorship and so forth. He claims that he's for free speech. But he's in with his tech, and that his tech is a key part of what this Orwellian World Economic Forum, WHO thing want to do. to us all. Now, Musk likes tech and he likes Neuralink, and, good on him. He likes what he's interested in. But he's a major component of the whole thing. Now, the fact that he's opposed to certain things and he's for free speech, it's almost like if you're going to the woods and you want to build a wigwam or a bivouac and you've got all these lengths of wood, like an Indian wigwam, you've got your poles, you lean your poles up. If you get 3 poles, right, you can lean them up against each other. Now, you can only get 3 wooden posts and form a triangular structure with them when they're all leaning against each other. If they're all going the same way, right, they kind of fall over. So if you've got 3 long wooden posts and you lean them against each other, they stand up because of opposing forces, but they come together in a focal central point, right? And the focal central point is the apex of the whole structure, but they're leaning together with opposing forces. That's almost like Labour and the Tories, right? And Musk is part of the structure that they want and need. He's one of the 4 posts because they need all the Neuralink stuff, and he's the guy who's happy to work on it, even if he's opposed to them. And that's like, you can use the example of, the wooden posts leaning against each other, opposing forces, right? Or you could have a different model where it's like, the magnets in a circle, where they're all lined up positive. They're all like the negative and positive are different, but they stick together, and this is almost like, Musk is at odds with Mark Zuckerberg. They want to cage fight each other, they spar, they joke, they're opposed, but they're opposed in the fact that, the Neuralink is the perfect thing that's going to go with the virtual reality. They've got a focal point. All this is going to come together around the focal point for the WHO and the people who want to basically assimilate the human being and, take over control. There's a focal point, even though they're opposing forces, but that's what holds it all together. And that's the thing that, Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk, and they need to take seriously, And this is where you get characters like, Nick Clegg. Sir Nick Clegg. Oh, you want to hit a man with glasses, Yeah, he is an ex-Deputy Prime Minister of England. And he is part of the orchestration of the whole thing as well, in with Mark Zuckerberg. It's Tony Blair and David Cameron. You see, if these people didn't get hold of our public services from the government to a corporate private ownership that is now trying to claim that rights don't apply when they do apply through lies, and no one in the government is trying to stand up for us or help us out. David Cameron passed the rugby ball. David Cameron got the rugby ball of our public services, the Royal Mail, claimed that he was going to do us all a favour and make a competitive world, and he just took it all from us and gave it straight to Vanguard Investments. So David Cameron was a team player for it, and Tony Blair is. I would say Tony Blair more. I think Tony Blair is, even more deeply. Tony Blair is one of the major guys in this, and no matter how many healthy food parties he has, he never stopped the production of and building and planning of McDonald's and all these planning permissions which were given precedence all around England. He pushed all that through Labour and wanted to increase that and thought it was good for us while sperm count was falling. Blair, there's all the war crimes with Blair. A lot of these MPs are quite vindictive. What I want Andrew Bridgen, this is a statement, this is a legal statement and evidence, by the way. It's a very serious one. I'm not only going to tag Mary Ann Williamson I don't know whether these people get these messages because, we don't know whether someone's intervening, like on TuneCore, like on Amazon, whether someone's intervening, whether someone's blocking it, whether anyone gets the message. Some certain text messages aren't even getting to my phone at the moment, and some are being blocked, sent out. Not all of them, strangely, something wrong with my phone. This is an evidence and statement of the whole thing. And Andrew Bridgen needs to find out. He needs to make inquiries like what Rand Paul's doing in America over the Fauci stuff. We need to know who's making these decisions. Is it MPs that are opposed to Bridgen? Are they getting revenge on him? And that would be suggestive if certain members of Parliament in Parliament are shouting out, "Get out of here, Bridgen, you don't belong here." It would suggest it is the MPs and the staff within the government who are pushing these buttons and pulling these levers on the motorway to get revenge against someone who's got an investigation against them. How dare you investigate the government? How dare you accuse the government of racketeering, of fraud? Well, they have. And the police. You've got the right to do that as a citizen and petition for a public inquiry. You're meant to be protected. And they're not meant to use the services of the government against an individual, a person, particularly when you're protected and when you're actually doing policing work, they're actually trying to stop you. Now, in politics, apparently you can oppose certain things or debate it, but you can't, under the 501c3 law, which in America sets out an ideal, which is that you can support or oppose campaigns, but you can't sabotage or deny the process, right? So if you've got, which basically is the principle of, if you've got a printing press and you're the only printing press in the town, you can print, if there's an election on, and you have to supply service to both parties. Now, if you want to vote for one party yourself, you can print out your own leaflets to oppose a certain one of them, but you can't deny service because otherwise you're denying function, and you're denying them the access to the services and the ability to actually make the advertisements, which is protected. That's what freedom of press is. And Parliament actually, the Petitions Committee are doing this. They're denying the publication of petitions, and they're also lying and saying that they don't know what they say, that we don't know what you're asking, when they do know. And it can be something you can have and they can do. And they're lying. So we've got corrupt government, but yet what we've got is the police going around and arresting, Lawrence Fox. Now, I've got something to say about that Lawrence Fox thing as well, actually. I started this discussion about the police speed limit and the fact that they went round and arrested Lawrence Fox for, when he's meant to have protection, he can say what he wants, even hypothetically or whatever, without it being a crime. The police can break the speed limit and not be a crime. Lawrence Fox has got political legislation where he can say what he wants and it not be a crime. With Fox and with that TV program, why haven't the police prosecuted Don't Pay UK campaign? Why, if you're not protected for political speech, even when it comes to like encouraging people for offences, why didn't the police shut down that Don't Pay UK campaign? And Russell Brand, when Russell Brand told everyone not to pay their taxes, right? Now the thing is, if you told everyone not to pay for the electricity bill, it's like saying, go to Toys R Us and don't pay for toys, right? That's theft. So if you're not paying electricity bills, in theory, you're stealing electric because you're getting electric and not paying for it, right? Or even council tax. But there are some legal things with council tax where it might not be lawful. But let's look at electricity bills, right? If you're getting electricity and not paying for electricity, theoretically that's theft because you're stealing the electric. So why didn't they arrest Don't Pay UK if they don't have political protection? And, what about Russell Brand? And that's when, he said don't pay taxes. And that's when the Queen had a bloody episode immediately after that, which is literally... I don't think Russell Brand understands on a historic level and a historic event what's happened. That event when Russell Brand on his 6 million viewer channel or 6 million subscriber channel told everyone not to pay tax and bills, that is like almost like what triggered the Civil War. When Buckingham and the whole thing with the shipping taxes and all that, and the king. People didn't want to pay that shipping tax, and those aggravated what led into the Civil War. Because I've read the book by Peter Ackroyd, Histories of England, Volume 3. It's a good book. I haven't read all of the other volumes. But I don't really like reading long books, but I read that because I found some information about committees and petitioning in there. Like, there's a really useful page in there. It tells you about the committee with the members of the House of Lords who were on the libertarian side, the Whig side, like Brooke, Bedford, Warwick, and Saint Seal. So, there's no, a crime's a crime. If it's illegal and against the law, then that is a crime. Now, what has got me is, because it's cameras, speed cameras, the police have gone in and arrested Lawrence Fox when he hasn't actually committed a crime. They know he hasn't committed a crime just because he said that he would do something. He didn't say that he is going to do it, and he didn't say that he will do it, and that's really important. He didn't say that he will do it, and he didn't say that he is going to do it. He's just said that he would, right? But even that, right? If that's a crime, taking those cameras down, right, vandalizing those cameras, it's only a crime like theft. Theft is a crime, an offence. Now, if you're intending to have electricity and not pay for it, you're stealing it, right? So the question is this, riddle me this, to the Met Police Chief Officer, right? I'm sending this to Bridgen, I'm sending it to Fox. I hope Fox passes it on to his lawyer who's representing him, because it's not a load of rubbish, this is useful material, right? Send it to Rand Paul and to RFK, right? And it is this, that why didn't they arrest all of Don't Pay UK for telling people to steal electricity if you haven't got political immunity, which it's a political campaign? And they regarded it as having political immunity. And Russell Brand as well. He's only been demonetised. He hasn't had any of his video channel taken down. And the only thing that the police seem to be interested in is his sex affairs, right? So why didn't they arrest Russell Brand for encouraging the public to steal electricity and not pay bills? And tax. Theoretically, if you owe the government tax, and if the government are entitled to collect tax and you don't pay it, that's theft of money. Because it's not your money, it's theirs. Right? So even though there are some other loopholes to do with that sovereign group that are appearing on Verb's channel, where there are certain technicalities in council tax where it may not be lawful for them to collect it if they're breaking the law, or you don't have to pay it if they're committing crimes themselves. So on the basis of that, if they if they can arrest Lawrence Fox, and charge him, then they can arrest and charge Don't Pay UK, all of them, the whole campaign, and Brand for that. But they haven't done. And the question is, why didn't they? And I would say because the police aren't interested in electricity theft, but they are interested in cameras because the police really like those cameras. It's the police's new surveillance system. They do speed, they check speed, they can do I think they can do facial recognition. There are several things they can do. They can act as speed cameras, average speed cameras, surveillance, and other things. And this is what the police love. This is what the police are pushing for, because the Secretary of State for the Home Office, I think, Big Brother Watch have just put a video out saying that he wants to get all the passport data. They've got all this, and they're going to pull this other thing now. They're wanting to drop all this biometric data and facial recognition on everyone. So he is obsessed. They're actually obsessed with surveillance, with digital eyes on TVs looking into houses, with even using ownership of Rishi Sunak's investment in companies and shares in BlackRock Vanguard, which will trickle into EE, and conjuring the idea to send the offer out for motion detecting. And through fear-mongering, what's that noise outside? Settle down nice and warm. They're actually here using fear-mongering and scaremongering to get people to get motion detecting. Now, we've got a problem because all these companies are collaborating. They're working together they're sending us their mobile phones, and once we've got using the mobile phone and we can't live without it, then they upgrade the mobile phone remotely with new software. So then they've given themselves their own right and access to your photos and data. And if you don't accept and consent, the phone will no longer work anymore. So you've been entrapped into it. It is entrapment. And then they're trying to get your motion detectors outside. And then they've got digital eyes fitted in the TVs, whether you like it or not, because they're the only TVs that are for sale anymore. The whole thing is a rugby tackle. It is a rugby tackle. And it's not only that, the rugby tackle of the health, which all the major doctors are talking about now on the internet, Campbell, Berg, Ekberg, all of them. And they've already tackled our health. They've already rugby tackled our testicles by dropping the sperm count down by 50% dramatically since World War II, and all the diabetes and cancer, heavily pushing the adverts and getting kids to buy those products with the cartoon characters, which is all documented in Channel 4. That's all documented on that Channel 4 programme, right? That's another rugby tackle. And then you've got the cheek of the Home Office, Secretary of State, saying that we all need to be the ones who are surveillance for facial recognition, when it's the government ministers who are the ones who are doing the dirty tricks, the horrible nipple pinching, the squeezing and nipping of the nipple and twisting it on the motorway. People, 40 mile an hour on a 6-lane clear motorway where there's nothing at the other side, and sending immigrants into targeting Andrew Bridgen's constituency, and then the local council here, and then that track that I put out with the Labour Party, that's the one that got hacked and it was playing the wrong song with Sam Goosey in it, and then my rating got diminished. These people, everything you do, they think we're attacking them. Oh, we're the ones attacking them with our political campaigns. Well, no, actually, it's an investigation. You put this out unlawfully. They've proved it with ULEZ. They've got ULEZ signs out wrong and enforcement, and they proved it, and they've actually made them give fines back. It was unlawful. The government did something wrong. And they've done a lot more than that wrong, and the police have, and they did it on purpose. It was planned. There was a strategy to it. It was pre-coordinated. It's racketeering, and this is what they do. And some of it, because they do it, and because they actually used the cameras to try and hurt people, upset people, and because of Andrew Bridgen's targeting as well, and the police targeting Lawrence Fox, yet they didn't go after Don't Pay UK when telling people to steal electricity. The police targeted the things that were upsetting them because they want their cameras. It's targeting. Now, people within the government, people within this parliament, this government, are using their job in the cabinet to use government services to hurt people. Then there's all that COVID mask advertising stuff as well, which we didn't need. Keep your mouth, which basically says, be quiet, keep your mouth shut, which is almost like promoting not talking on buses because, there's a talking bus, so you're not talking to each other. Everyone on the bus is sat with a cloth over their mouth. What other else do you want except, keep calm and carry on? Where I don't. Andrew Bridgen knows who these people are. He knows exactly the names of each of them. He knows them all off by heart. He can reel off the names. One of them had alcohol, inebriated. He had an excuse, but he told Bridgen to get out of Parliament and get lost, right? I don't know if he's a member of the cabinet or not. But then we've got these police people with a big hold on it. They're using this tech and stuff. They've entrapped us to do it, to get hold of it. And then we shouldn't even have any crime anyway, but yet the government have been playing around with other countries and the military have been messing around with other countries. And then they've been sending Boris Johnson doing horse whispering to Zelensky, do this, do that. They've been sending BlackRock Vanguard bank managers whispering into Saudi Arabia's ears, invest in this, invest in that, invest in this, invest in that. They are causing the wars abroad. They are stirring. They're doing espionage and propaganda in these other countries to cause all this and drive to herd, like herding cattle. They're driving and herding people into this country. And, they're doing it just like Bridgen's been targeted with those hotels. They're targeting it because there are people in this country and they want to hurt us. They want us to be scared and they want the crime level to go up because the police want a world what is observed and surveillanced. Because the whole Department of Innovation and Technology and the Bill Gates legacy, the Bill Gates dynasty, the Bill Gates whole existence and anthropological enterprise that spreads everywhere, it wants to build a future of machine-operated life, machines farming, machines building space stations, AI doing art. I don't know what the place of a human is in that world, but they don't want humans to be able to interact with that world freely. They want a world around you which is an authorization world. You're authorized to interact with the surroundings. You're not in a jungle where you can climb any tree, or you can run away from any tiger, or you can choose any plant to pick or eat. They want a world where doors open for authorized people. If you support Keir Starmer, doors will open. If you're Jason Williamson on Sleaford Mods, doors close. If you're Jeremy Corbyn, doors close. If you're Andrew Bridgen, doors not only close, but they target your area with hotels. If you put certain music out that are opposing their campaigns, your track won't play. Your graphic, they'll put a white line across the top of it, or they'll even say we're not publishing it for no reason or any reason. This is classic fascism. Starmer is a fascist. He doesn't know what fascism is. When you see Angela Rayner there and Starmer, it's like watching Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom, and Starmer ain't Jones. Starmer ain't Harrison Ford, and Angela Rayner ain't the heroine. These are the opposition, the fascists, because they do want a digital eye Orwellian surveillance state of they want rank and file. They want every building on when you walk down the pavement, even if you're allowed to walk down the pavement, you can't. Everything is, are you authorized to breathe? Are you authorized to look in that shop window? I mean, they're doing this in China. This is what they're doing in China with the behavior, with this social point system. And I think they must like it. I think Tony Blair actually likes it. But I don't know why, because he was the person who pushed for freedom of information, and China have never had freedom of information. But notice it was freedom of information for the corporate entities so they could assimilate and scan the government. I don't actually think it was for the public, because all the public could do with that information is get some data and then try have a stab at the government, try have a, oh, look, we'll get some data on fines, we'll get some data on speed cameras, we'll get some data on this or that. Not even if the data was full, complete or correct anyway. And a lot of people had a try at the government. Oh, we've got freedom of information. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Hardly anyone got anywhere with it, because the government just brick-walled them and blanked it. We'll give you the information, but if you ain't got a prosecutor, this is what Jimmy Dore said. He said that, it's only illegal if you've got, the Justice Department willing to prosecute it. You can get all the data you want from the government, all the evidence you want, but if there's no one willing to prosecute them on it or challenge them in the courts, then, and if the government won't act on it, then you're like you're up the creek, which is what happened to me with the DVLA, with evidence side on the driving licenses that they're enforcing the wrong speed limit on single carriageways for vans. They were trying to say that they were a lorry when they're not, when it's a car, and it proved that on the back of the 1993 driving license, and they just. They didn't say that I was wrong, but they just brick-walled us. So, government, the behaviour of the petitions committee itself, with rejecting these petitions, is about as useful as freedom of information, because they won't even. The thing is, you can't even attach any information to petitions anyway, unless it's on a government website. And even if they did give you freedom of information, even if it wasn't published on a government website, if you asked them for the information and they put it in a letter, and the only way you could attach that letter to the petition was to put it on your Google Drive or to put it on your website, they wouldn't even allow it in the petition, because it's not a government website that you're hosting it from, so it could be possibly misinformation. So, what Blair did is he created a government that was transparent, so all the corporate entities and companies he literally, pull the pants of the government down and ask the corporate entities to come and milk his willy, to come and suck his wiener, come and suck my willy and, milk as much as you want out of it. Come get the milk, right? That's what Blair did. He pulled down the pants of the government like the teats on a cow and said, come get your milk, right? That's what Blair did. And then any of us who had a suck and got some information, he said, well, what are you going to do with that information? And it was the ultimate test, really. What the government would do for defence is, with all this information people are getting about statistics and speeding fines and all this other data, come and having a go at us. It's almost like giving Winchester rifles to the Indians, and but they don't work. It's almost like giving the information to the public. A lot of public wanted to fine the government and sue the government, but it didn't work. because they brick-walled them, because they're the ones with the power. They're the ones who can make the actions and take the actions, right? That's what happened. And then what Blair did when he went out to the horse whisperer, to the other governments and companies, then he's like, oh, this works. Now we'll train up the corporate elite like this. So what happened is, Cameron sells it all off, and then you've got them all trained up, but then even better, then we don't even have to give you the information, Now we don't have to give you the information. If you could get the freedom of information and the data from these companies, you might be able to take them to the civil court. But, now that they're just brick-walling you, they won't even give the data over. So, that's effectively like, when you've got the data, the government will act because they're the only ones with the judicial power to do anything or prosecute or take action. You've got the data, but they won't do the action. Now, with the corporate elite, right, you could take some sort of civil action if you had the data, but they won't give you the data, And the amount of people that they're doing this to, they could easily afford it. They could easily come together with, fundraiser or whatever, or GoFundMe as a litigation. How the people cannot overthrow these big platforms and take it back into public ownership, one begs to, fathom, because there are so many more of us than them. But because they've got their staff, and their staff won't comply, the staff won't compromise the entity. What they do now is they say, oh, we can't give this information because it's for staff safety, to protect our interests in company, which is what the CPS used to do. But instead, they're not protecting the government from becoming corrupt. They're facilitating and enabling the government to be corrupt and not be stopped. That's the problem. So, I'd like Bridgen to, I'd like to see more of these people who are calling out Bridgen, telling him to get out of Parliament, the names of them, who are they? These are the people who are behind these cabinet actions against us, who are doing these nasty things. These are people like Grant Shapps. These are people like the Secretary of State for, the Home Office, who's wanting an Orwellian thing. He stood there going, hey, who's he talking to? Oh, we're going to have all the biometric data. We're going to get all this. We've got all the data in the system. Who's he talking to? He's not talking to us, the people. He's talking to the police chief. He's actually giving the announcement to councillors, ministers, people of power. He's not giving it to the people. What they're doing to the people is using his pals and friends in his corporate shareholders of EE to send text messages to everyone going, ooh, what's that noise outside? What's that movement? Be scared. Get motion detecting. That, if you can prove that EE is owned, if Rishi Sunak's got shares in EE and he is meeting or speaking with EE or friends in EE, and they're sending those messages out, and he's got something to do with that, when the Home Office head of the police is trying to get everyone's biometric data because he's claiming we need it desperately because of crime, when he's trying to scare everyone through smartphones to get motion detecting, which will, all tie into their systems eventually. We're being claw grabbed, and I am having to talk through my phone now. It's the only thing I can do. I've got to use this phone. If I want to do anything, I've got to have a voice, and I've got to speak, and I've got to have a recording. And even by the time I finish this recording, Google Ads has been scanning it, and, that's entrapment. Even though you want people to hear what you're saying, but then they're threatening to, if they're not going to kick you off of YouTube, the thing is, they don't want your videos on YouTube, but they want onto your phone to scan your videos and to even use your own videos for ads, but they don't want that video on YouTube. What they do want then is to anything that they don't want on YouTube eventually, they want it to be illegal to even say it in your own house. And what they actually want is they don't want it on YouTube, and then they want to be able to scan your phone eventually, so then they can send the police around automatically to your house. And that is, in the Bill of Rights, the freedom of speech to speak freely about religious matters or political matters in private meetings that you want to have petition for government to draft petitions to ask the people to sign to get put through Parliament and debated. That protected you in private speaking. And the way they're going, you're not going to be protected from speaking in private. And I don't think that they're going to say that it's political speech is protected, because what Lawrence Fox just did, they've actually tried to charge him with an offence, even though he's got political protection. Yet they're not prosecuting Don't Pay UK for telling everyone to steal electricity and other water and so forth, or Russell Brand. In fact, when Russell Brand told 6 million people not to pay bills, the Queen passed away in a very short space of time, like within 24 hours of that announcement. It was literally like straight out of the Civil War, Peter Ackroyd. That is what the Civil War was about, us not paying shipping tax. And, that the Queen passing away with Russell Brand's statement, I don't know whether she did pass away. I don't know whether she's with Madeleine McCann somewhere with a new identity, with just a few extra years left, God, she probably had another 5 or 7 years left of retirement, and she's gone to Lanzarote and had, facial surgery, or she's pretending to be someone's grandma with Diana. She's reunion. Maybe the Queen's in reunion with Diana and Philip, because Philip didn't pass away that long before her, although apparently they didn't even live in the same house together. We don't know. I'm not saying that that's true or not, but it couldn't have been. There's no event in history, never on Channel 4, BBC One or ITV, would you have heard it, other than Russell Brand, 6 million subscribers, don't pay your bills. And the Queen has a heart. The Queen very quickly passes away. That's probably more significant than Graham Smith turning up, to protest Charles's coronation and having all his signs taken off him because, Charles didn't want it spoiled, but yet the choir ended up singing, Why That Vagina Camilla, So, I really don't know what we're going to do, because it's become so antisocial now everywhere. They've made life so antisocial, and Mark Zuckerberg's to blame. If it wasn't for Mark Zuckerberg with his block and ban buttons, it would be a lot better. But people like kicking people out for literally next to no reason or any reason. And no one's enforcing any rights or any discrimination at all. If Zuckerberg from the start had actually used Facebook staff to help out and intervene when people have been discriminated against, but they don't give a monkeys. Why would it? The thing with Zuckerberg is that he claims that, it's a social platform. I really want a social platform. I'm a social guy. I hang around with hip-hop guys. I'm a socialist. He's not. He's a guy who is he's encouraging an antisocial world, an antisocial world, an antisocial planet, where everyone's an object, like this person or them. A person is not an ornament. A person is not a painting. A person is not a thing. Mark Zuckerberg's assimilating us all into metaverse things, a thing, a digital object, a thing, like this thing or dislike this thing. No, I've got feelings. I'm a person with feelings. They're trying their hardest to design AI. Musk and Zuckerberg passionately and desperately want to create the robot with feelings, but They've got buttons that are breaking people's hearts on a daily basis. Oh, because you upset someone else. No, actually, no, you did nothing wrong. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. The other person just doesn't understand. They don't get you. They read it and they just don't have a fucking clue. Then they just push a button. Heartbreak Hotel. It's like on motorway with those speed cameras, nipple twisting. It's like a nipple twisting button. And the claim is that, it must be your fault. You must have said something offensive. You must have put spam. You must have... No, actually, where's the swear word? There was no swear word there. There is no swear word at all. Now people are just blocking and banning whimsically. Why? Because he gave them a power. And the power is being abused. And that is where the police are with their overstepping of it. And you can have Rishi Sunak having words with the police all you want. You can have, no one's had words with the police. Because the police they're too big muscle now. They're too much muscle. No one's got any powers to do anything about it. Lawrence Fox isn't even able to uphold his own political rights. And he's leading a political party. He can't be fit to have a political party if he can't enforce the rights of it. But then again, Bridgen, he's having his constituency targeted. Other MPs are getting drunk and telling him to, get lost. They've been kicked off GB News. Robert F. Kennedy's not even yet been able to, enforce political rights on YouTube, although we're trying. It's... And these are even the methods by which you're supposed to oppose and challenge all these things fairly. But they don't even... Now, it's not even lawful to have a go. What these people are doing and what Biden is doing, it's almost like a wrestling match where you're not allowed to wrestle. It's almost like a game where to win, you've got, if you've got it's like pick three numbers, right? It's like, if you've got to get, right, to win, you've got to have, you've got to have, if you've got 5 to 10 credits, you win, right? If you've got under 5 credits, you lose. But they make it so if you're in possession of 5 credits, it's illegal to have 5 credits. So you can't win. That's the way that they're going. It's like you can engage in a conversation, but if anything you say can beat us, then you can't say it, right? Anything that could potentially beat Biden or this British government, it's like it's like illicit materials, illicit substances. It's now becoming illicit language because it could potentially win and beat them. Even the existence of a party, a political party that's not Labour or the Tories, or with someone leading it who isn't them, now, the existence of it, they just don't want, they don't like it. It's like, it's like thumbs down, and they want it off the platform. They don't want it there. And not only that, they just don't want it to exist. This is what they're going to be doing in houses now. If you're speaking and saying things now, I think they're going to be wanting to just automatically have the police come around or a drone, right? That's not what we were meant to have fought the war for. That's not what we was meant to have fought for in the war. What they're doing with the social point system in China, I think a social point system's anti-social because the government are deciding what the points are. It's the government which are observing things and setting the points, not even the other people. And this is the thing that we're doing here. What's happening here is the people are deciding what they block and what they ban, whether they like it or not. But that's whether they just like it or not. And and no one's there to enforce it and look at it fairly, like a judge or an administrator. And you're not actually getting a fair hearing on it, and you can't even object. You get removed, and that's it. You're gone. Now that is giving the people a judicial power which they shouldn't have the authority to enforce or have, particularly in groups and when it's for political matters and political purposes and meetings, right? And that part of it, that's encouraging the citizens to be intolerant and not like each other. And if they're going to be intolerant of each other and not like each other, they're going to be not only just wanting to block and ban each other, but once they've blocked and banned you, they're going to be watching for motion and movement outside. And that's not criminals. That's just people who don't agree with them, or even they didn't understand or get what they said. Now, if China are having a government who are deciding what people should and shouldn't be saying, not the other people, the government decides what your points are and what you did is good or not your peers. But in England, they're getting the peers to decide whether you can or can't say that, or whether you like it or not. When even if and giving them a power to enforce their whim, even when there's, I won't mind, but now it's not even swear words. It's just even when they don't get it, or they don't agree with you, or they don't know you, right? Or it's not the right topic in the right room at the right time. And you've got the power to block people from your life because you're talking about snooker in a fucking darts club. Not even while you're throwing darts when you've gone to the bar to get a drink. You know, this is the problem, right? And the problem is that if you add what people are doing now to what they're doing in China, you've got a nightmare scenario, particularly with the police here wanting to bring in all they're pushing for what China have got, all this facial recognition, and we're not having a vote. They're not going to give us a vote on it. And in fact, the votes for the Labour have dropped through the bottom of the floor. Labour won in Scotland in a by-election on a swing vote when the voting had completely dropped. So it swung from SNP to Labour as the votes dropped out of the bottom of the floor. That's like a falling tree. That literally is like someone cutting a tree down. It's not Labour winning, it's Labour falling. It's like the main political party falling down. This is not, Labour rising to victory. This is, the SNP, swinging. It's like the SNP Labour tree, swinging from one side to the other as it falls down. That's what it is. I don't think they're even going to vote for Tory. This Secretary of State for the Home Office needs stopping. He needs stopping quickly, and we need to stop this WHO quickly as well. And people are being targeted by our own government, but what we need to find out is what, like Paul Rand really is on the precipice of looking into, who are the people behind, it's not some of these things aren't a coincidence, and some of it is orchestrated. Now, some people might say the CIA are orchestrating it, and it is the government, it is Rand Paul, it is Biden. It's Biden. Biden gave the command. Biden told them to take down the things from YouTube. But it's not just that. There's something more to it. Because unless we can find out, I don't think Rand Paul is saying that, there's a specific department in the American government that wanted to cause a train wreck in India to make a political point. He's not saying that. He's not saying, unless the government is using those tactics and incidents, So we need to find out whether these governments using public services to target, like, Bridgen with, immigrants in hotels and target me with local council actions, or, their corporate friends moving airlines to annoy you, and messing around with your TuneCore thing. That's not meant to be. The government aren't supposed to make your album cover go wrong. The government aren't supposed to make your song play wrong on the internet. And because it's Labour Party orientated, some of those things to do with that track. It's like this whole Al Jazeera hacking investigation. The Al Jazeera hacking investigation looks into the Labour Party and certain emails being hacked and things like that. So that there is a Labour Party in a circle of some sort of control. There's some unholy union or affiliation, and they say it's not the Privy Council. Starmer's in the Privy Council, but then again, so is Ed Davey. So is Penny Mordaunt. But there's more to it than that, because that ex-Liberal MP was part of the Privy Council, and he didn't actually really rate it that much. I don't know if it's certain people, just certain persons, or what. Grant Shapps, people like that. We need to find out if and how the corporate control levers, companies that control trains and signals, how that ties into government or certain political party reactions to certain things people are trying to do. And mainly when you're trying to do things with government, mainly when you're trying to win legal cases and things like that, which is significant, or beat the platforms, or even get action through the government, someone's not happy about it. And I think it's the political party leaders and this military-industrial complex police. There's an alliance, and it's like the Anonymous, but they're not so anonymous when they're telling Bridgen to get out of Parliament when they're drunk. They're not anonymous at that point. They're not anonymous when they're Fauci, right? So they're not fully anonymous, but it is groups. It's alliances and affiliations, and they're doing elements of cover-up. That's what ultimately Paul Rand has said, that it's not the fact that, if there's anything sloppy or if there's professional negligence, it's the fact that when they cover things up and try and hide it, which makes it illegal. And that's the thing with these incidents, like the train signal failure. If someone did that on purpose, but how do you find out who? Well, no one would suspect that anyone did it on purpose. It happens, and it's presented in the news as coincidence. It's presented in the news as a complete and total coincidence. But it isn't a coincidence, because something happened, and that happened then, and it strikes a chord and resonance and meaning, right? Now, someone can cause it. It's possible for someone to cause it. What's the motive, though? Well, there's a political motive. First, you've got to identify a motive, and the fact you say, well, someone was angry, so they've struck, they've hit out, they've punched out. Now, if Bridgen can prove that the government have disfavoured North Leicestershire and they've targeted them with migrant hotels as revenge or punishment, then that is evidence that it is actually government ministers. And if you can prove that they did that, like on the motorway with the speeding and dropped the thing down just to hurt people, then these people they're using government, they're using the government levers to hurt and upset for political effect, not just to run the country properly. And that is a misuse of public services and government services. And if it is identifiable people in the government doing it, then it's not all anonymous, and it's not all persons hacking into it and so forth. We need to find what part of it. This is where you get the whole riddle with the CIA that, you know, ex-CIA working in Twitter, you know, taking stuff down or trying to, you know, cover stuff up. That, I think that probably is the answer. You know, it's certain people who are part of groups working in private companies and groups. You know, you've got affiliations through governmental, industrial, corporate networking, shareholding interests, and some of them are making decisions to target people, and they're trying to hide the reason why. They're not like Extinction Rebellion are saying, we're Extinction Rebellion and we're spraying this building because, you know, you're doing this or that. These people aren't smashing a train and saying, we smashed this train because, you know, you're trying to remove us from government, or you're trying to stop our security state. You know, people will get hurt if you do not, you know, stop this now. They're not admitting it, because if they admit it, you know, their actual action, you know, it's not just an Extinction Rebellion spraying a building or whatever. It's more serious. And then that would suggest that they actually are more serious than the Extinction Rebellion. And in fact, criminal, terrorist even. And that would suggest that there are terrorists that aren't simply ISIS or along those lines. They were very, very mastermind criminal terrorists at very high levels, like, you know, 9/11 sort of level, not just the Middle East, actually British, you know, because they can't get their own way with the world. You know, these people, then even their future profits, even their potential future profits, if they say that you are harming something they haven't got yet, they're now suing governments. If you were willing to do that, sue a government, and if you got the power to, because it might make a law that could potentially affect something that you haven't even got yet or aren't even going to do, it's just something you want or are thinking of, then you're at a very, very bad place. Because if those people will go that far, then you know, a little Extinction Rebellion painting job on a building, their equivalent, if they're suing governments, is, you know, a couple of people, 250 people in India having a train accident is literally just like stamping your feet, isn't it? First of all, we need to acknowledge that is happening, and when it gets presented on the news as a complete and total accident, that could be misinformation. You don't know. None of the real major news programs want to say or explore this was caused on purpose. This was a terrorist incident. They want you to know that it happened, though. If you didn't know it happened, then it doesn't really bother anyone. They like you to know about it. And therefore, because they like you to know about it, I think that it is there to provoke a public response. You know, and they want the public to not support certain causes, and they want the public to do certain things. But that's pretty much where I am with the whole thing at the moment. The whole thing with Lawrence Fox, the whole thing with the world, the whole thing with Bridgen, with RFK Jr., the whole thing. I think from what I've gathered, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. knows that there are corrupt people out there, and he knows, not just with the environment and so forth. You know, I think Rand Paul, you know, I think Rand Paul and RFK are at least that there is some common ground there, that they believe that, you know, we shouldn't have a world where there are terrorists working, doing harmful things to the general public. America have looked at those CBCDs, and, you know, it doesn't seem like that they like those CBCDs, digital currency. You know, that you know, So, at the moment, though, other than the Dr. Fauci, they're not really, the main press don't really want to admit that some things are caused on purpose. And I think a lot of the stories in the newspapers are exaggerated or fabricated anyway by, like the Sun, the Daily Mail, a lot of these newspapers. And a lot of them can cause incidents. On Jeremy Vine, there was the guy who owned all the corporate radio stations, and he said that he used to go, when they were doing TV programmes, he used to go as a wind-up, he'd go send someone to park a lorry there in front of it. So, it was in the background when they were doing the news programme and things like that. So he's sending people to do things like, that's like Extinction Rebellion action. If the guy who owns all the commercial radio stations admitted that he sent a lorry with sign writing on it to when they were going to do a news program report, to be in the background, to make a point, he's sending something to make an effect in a TV and a news program to affect it, right? So that exists, and they're doing it. So if he's doing it, other people are doing it. They're sending vehicles to do things, to be somewhere in connection with a news program, right? So, this is, if we can prove that, it makes the general public, seem a lot less serious, because when it comes to crime, other misdemeanors and so forth aren't that serious compared to these incidents, and therefore, really, the public are a lot less dangerous than these people. But these people it's people in government who are doing a lot of these things. And in these big corporate entities and groups, which won't give information over it. Why is the Secretary of State for the Home Office, right, or the head of the police, more bothered about, they want facial recognition everywhere because that's helped solve crime. But there are lots of crimes and things being done now by these platforms. There are lots of civil claims, not criminal cases. As well, there could be criminal cases. I want information from TuneCore. I want them to answer questions. I've got legal rights to do certain things, and I'm being acted on unlawfully. And no facial recognition or motion detectors is going to do anything for that. The government will not tell these platforms to uphold my rights and put my material back at all. They're not helping us. In fact, they're actually aiding and abetting these entities by telling them to remove our stuff. And then they want motion detectors everywhere and cameras everywhere. And what are you going to do if you have got the right to a civil case, and if they want to answer questions, and if you want to take them to court? But how do you get answers? Well, you would go around there, usually knock on the door and talk to them. But then if they don't want to come to the door and you can't get in the door with a telecom, it's so kind of like, Mr. Beast in the foyer of, YouTube. It's Mr. Beast, he's come around to see YouTube, in the foyer. But, if 1 million people turned up at YouTube headquarters to protest the channels have been taken down, then they want motion detectors, facial recognition, get the police round, But yet, what right have those people got to data of what we want, information of all the complaints that are on file to go to court to show evidence that YouTube have multiply lied, put the policy unfairly and discriminated against people with all the evidence? Where is the evidence and how do you get it if YouTube won't give you it? unless you go to a court and get it subpoenaed. But why would you need to go to court? The civil procedure says that have you made all efforts to settle it with the other party? Well, if you go round to the other party and you press the tannoid, or if you go to the office, you want to sit down with them. I'd like to sit down with Neil Mohan. You know, he pull up a chair like he does on TV when he's got a brand new, exciting new product. It's this brand new, exciting product. Neil's happy to have an audience of people there and someone sit there and clap and applaud and tell him how brilliant and genius he is, right? But when you not rock up at YouTube and you want to pull up a chair with Neil Mohan and answer some questions, I guess they did that with Elon Musk. The BBC did that with Elon Musk, you know. The BBC was knocking around, and I think Elon Musk actually said that he'd speak to them. He sat on a chair and had an interview with them. He said, come and interview me. And they interviewed him and he answered some questions. That was brilliant. That was great. He answered questions. So that's good. That's something. But YouTube and TuneCore don't want to seem to do that. They don't really seem to want to have that conversation, you know, person to person, pull up a chair. Particularly when it's answering legal questions, when you're making most efforts to resolve the problem out of court. You know, they want to motion detect you and then facial recognition if you come around to get answers to questions, you know, and then you get arrested, or then you're committing an offence because then, he's harassing us. Well, actually, no, I'm compelled by the civil procedure rules to make efforts to resolve this matter. Can you answer my questions, please, you know? Oh, no, it's harassment. You know, this is it. The way that the police are going and the ministers at the moment, they want us to be slaves again. You know, China, the model for China is a form of slavery. It's not good behaviour. It's, you know, who would want, you know, it's like growing square tomatoes, isn't it? Growing square tomatoes, you know, you want them to grow, you're getting your Chinese citizens, it's almost like putting a brace on your teeth. That's not natural. I don't think that it's natural, and it's beyond governance. That governance is just, you know, things need regulating, you know, forms and so forth. This is beyond that. This is actually, you know, this is trying to control creation, you know. And at that point, I think, you know, some of these oligarchs think that they're gods.